What you doing?
Brushing my teeth. I didn't have my toothpaste at home. I went to the dentist like a couple weeks ago, and I've had this sitting in my car for like 2 or 3 weeks, and it's come to good use. So I brush my teeth before we hit the trail.
Alright guys, it's March 26th here in Iowa. We're doing a little scouting today on a place that I've never been to before, and basically there's a good mix of habitat here. There's plenty of crop fields, plenty of big timber. There appears to be some hilly spots with some nice hardwoods in them, as well as some marsh and some river bottom ground. And it's a big area, so I think we can escape the pressure. We can get pretty far back off the road. And there's a spot that I want to check out that appears to be landlocked and kind of surrounded by water that I really think could hold some mature deer. So I definitely want to go check that out. And the only thing that really jumps out at me as being a negative about this place is it appears to have a little bit more non-hunting related human pressure, but I think the deer might get used to that, and we can still get a long ways back off the access. So I think we can get away with that. And you know, the goal today is just to find some sort of mature buck sign. You know, big rubs, big tracks, definitely something we're looking for, and maybe even some sheds. But really want to find some sort of sign that lets me know a mature buck is using the area, so we know it'll be useful to hunt. And it's been raining a lot lately, so definitely should be able to tell fresh sign from old sign, and be able to find some good tracks. So Trevor just found this little kind of brushed off spot in this bean field, and it could be turkeys just doing a little scraping and trying to dust themselves before it started raining a lot. And it's good to know because we're considering turkey hunting this spot, but definitely something to consider. And really this place sets up perfect for turkeys. There's just a ton of diverse habitat, and it'd be really good for them. So we're probably gonna look for turkey sign as well, and maybe even hunt it this spring. Alright, so we're walking this transition line in this really heavy trail, running all the way down it, where the marsh down here in this bottom meets the hardwoods, and it kind of creates a hill. And they can watch out all over this. It creates a really good transition line. But we just got to a spot where this is probably a bedding area for a doe family group. There's some indentations right here, and it's just a really good, likely bedding spot. But I'm gonna follow this transition line, or I might drop down here into the marsh. And we're going to follow this, work up north. So cool. Is there a point down there?
I think this could be a big buck track. I'm gonna follow this, see where it goes.
So I followed that buck track in here, and we almost overlooked this, but I ended up crossing a little waterway, and now we're kind of surrounded by water in this little strip along the river, and we're getting a lot more buck sign, a lot more bigger tracks, and we're finding rubs now. So we're gonna keep going up this way and see what else we can find. But he probably feels safe once he separates himself from the rest of the unit by these little lakes here.
So Hunter and I split up and followed 2 different trails here. I went up higher up into the field, and a deer got up about 80 yards ahead of me. I couldn't tell what it was because it's March and there's no antlers on deer right now, but it was a lone deer. And coming back to Hunter, I found this bed here. It's in this really thick CRP with some small trees. So here's a bed. It's most likely a doe bed or a really small buck because it's kind of out in the open. But we'll keep this in mind and go show you this rub.
Alright, so we were working our way down this field, this overgrown CRP field, and I was on the edge of it, and about 20 yards in the timber here, I noticed this rub. And the first thing that stood out to me was the fact that obviously it's a decent sized diameter tree, but the length and how high it goes really stuck out to me. And upon getting down here, I realized just how tall it is. There's marks up the tree all the way to the top of my chest, and even on this other branch, it goes way up, clear up to here. So obviously this is some sort of a bigger racked buck making this rub. And when I got over here, the other thing that stood out to me was it goes all the way down to the ground. And that's important because really the only time a rub's gonna go all the way down to the ground is if he's making it while he's bedded and laying down. And there's several spots around here, around this tree, that I think are areas that are matted down from a buck laying in. So this is definitely a really good find, and it at least has the potential to be a mature buck bed. Now, when I'm looking around here, I'm trying to figure out if there's a way where I can hunt it and get in close. And I'm gonna get down basically where the buck would be, his eye level. And like I said, I don't know exactly where the bed is in here, but he's probably bedding just right around here. He has this little bit of cover in front of him, and he can see behind him into this overgrown field a little ways, and down below him into this bottom. And it sets up pretty good for several wind directions. But if I'm down on his level, he can see pretty well, and I know that I'm probably not going to be able to get within even 80 yards of this spot, especially if I go up in a tree. Now in the early season, you might be able to get away with a little bit more error, and you might be able to get a little bit closer, but it is going to be hard to get really close to this bed. So the second thing I'm thinking about is, where's he going to go after he stands up or before he comes into the bed. And I think what he's going to stage in is this overgrown field right here. He can still feel safe in the thick grass, but he can also see a little ways and kind of see what's going on. He can feed around a little bit, and then eventually he'll go farther that way into the ag fields for the night or whatever he's doing. So it's important to understand what they're doing and how far they can see, so you know how close you can get, and then think about where they're going to go so you can make a plan to get in close and get a shot on them. But moving on now, this is definitely a good find. After I get done picking this apart, we're just gonna move up this way and see what else we find along this overgrown field. We might find some more beds like this.
So there's an island here in the CRP of a bunch of little trees, as you can see, and there looked to be a trail going through it. So I circled around, and there's this opening that could be a bed. It's not a huge bed, but it's back in here. I'm not seeing any rubs, so it could be another doe bed in here. But as you can tell, you can't see anything out of it, so a deer would be completely relying on his nose to smell, and he'd have to smell a 360-degree area. So this is a nice little trail through here. It's super thick, but yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Alright, so this is the rub I found, and we're about 75 yards from the last one. But it basically sets up the same, and we actually think this could be another bed area. And it might be the same deer, it might be a different mature buck, but we think this one is definitely some sort of mature deer. I mean, that's a big, tough tree, and some of the markings go all the way up to my chin. I mean, that's a big rub, and it goes almost all the way down to the ground. And I was looking around, and I was saying to Trevor that I'm not sure this is an actual bed. You know, I didn't really see any spots, and for some reason I didn't really look behind it, I guess. And he noticed that there's kind of this nest area where there's an indentation and there's some cover pretty much all around him. but it looks like a buck can bed there, and he has exit trails going literally every direction. So it's really thick, and he can stay hidden, but he can also get out of it really easily. So that's definitely a good find on Trevor, and I think that's the actual bed in this location, and it sets up pretty much the exact same as the other one. So definitely good to know. These are going to be harder to hunt. There's most likely going to be deer all the time bedded in that CRP field, so it'll be hard not to spook them, but definitely good to know that there's probably some mature bucks bedding in here, and we can figure out how to hunt them from there. But probably going to keep working our way up this way, and I wouldn't be surprised if we found a few more of these. And I was walking down there and I saw a track coming in, so I'm gonna study that track a little bit more, because a lot of times the buck tracks are very unique, and it'd be very useful if I can identify his track as one particular track, so I can know every time I see it that it is him. So I'm gonna go over there and try to find it again and see if I can identify some unique characteristics. So this is actually some sort of people or horse trail, and it's not that far from the bed but that we just found, but we think these are the mature buck tracks because they are just huge. And I know they're probably a little bit bigger because it is muddy, but these are going to be big tracks even in dry soils. I mean, these are ridiculous. And we don't know how big his antlers are, but he has big feet. And he's just walking this trail, but we're gonna see where he goes. I mean, they're big.
So Hunter's down there looking and following those tracks and studying the tracks, and I went back up to the bed and I'm following an exit trail out, and I'm already finding really big and really long rubs again, and some really good used trails. So it's pretty awesome. Gonna keep following this a little bit and keep heading this direction.
So we came down here all the way down to this marshy area. We found a really big set of tracks. We don't know if it's the same deer that we had found before or not, but we found tracks going and coming from on the same trail, and we followed it way back in here. I don't know how far we actually followed the tracks, but this is actually his bed, and there might be more around here too, so we're going to keep following, try to find some other tracks. But this is for sure bed. There's hair in it right here, and some other ones I found. Yeah, and there's definitely a big indentation. It's definitely a big bed, which is a good indication of a big deer. But he has some obstruction behind him, and there's also this waterway that separates him from any predators. And with any wind coming across that, he won't have to watch that way, and he can just kind of stand up and watch basically all of this bottom marsh here in front of him, and he probably feels pretty safe. But definitely a good find. Trevor did good. So we just got to a spot on this island that's basically surrounded by water, where it looks like it could be a buck bed, but there's also multiple beds in here. So I guess it could be a doe family group, but there are rubs, and pretty good sized rubs, on the entry and exit trails coming in and out of here. But it's definitely a bed. There's plenty of hair in it, and it has something at its back. It really looks like a kind of a telltale buck bed. There's also one right over there. So I can't know for sure that this is a mature buck bed, but it is a bedding area nonetheless. Alright guys, it's 6 o'clock now, and we're just headed back to the car. It is definitely a long day. We've been here since I think 10 or 10:30. So a lot of walking, covered a lot of ground, and definitely learned a lot about the area. It'll make more sense when we go home and plot all of the points of interest on Google Earth. You know, any of the buck beds, any special trails we found, or anything along those lines. It'll make a lot more sense when we go home and plot it all on a map. But I do have some of the buck beds marked in my phone on my GPS, so it should be easy to mark on Google Earth, and then we'll be able to better understand this place after we do that. But as far as impressions of the place, there's definitely some big bucks in here. I think this area has the most big rubs out of any area I've ever been to. Like I said, definitely some big deer in here. I'm looking forward to doing a little bit more scouting and making sure there's some big deer in here and try to pattern them. But as far as overall deer density, I think it is a little bit lower than some of the other areas that I hunt and that I've scouted. But it could be a little skewed today because it did just rain for 2 days straight, so it might be affecting some of the deer sign with that. But definitely looking forward to scouting this a little bit more and hunting it this fall. Alright guys, if you liked the video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button as always, and make sure you comment down below with any questions and subscribe to see future content. Thanks.